let's look at a couple of ways in which we can use the fill tool within the context of Affinity Photo. So let's create our fill. We can go to Layer and New Fill Layer. Okay, this creates us a fill layer. So if we move across to the Layers panel, here's our fill layer above the background pixel layer, which is our image. So it's important to note that this is a non-destructive vector layer, which means we can change its color or gradient fill at any point during our editing. You'll notice when we created that fill, we automatically had the gradient tool selected for us. So let's use this tool. Let's click drag on this fill layer, okay, to create a gradient. I've got this stop here at the bottom selected. So I'm going to go to color and change this to a nice sort of deep blue. Then I'll click the gradient stop at the top here and I'll set it to pure black. So now we need to blend this fill layer into our image below for some creative effect. Let's change the blend mode here. Let's just cycle through them until we see something appealing. Let's try screen. Okay, so what we've got going on here is a kind of a light leak effect on the image. And we might want to also adjust the opacity to control the overall strength of the fill layer. But of course, we can also go in and modify the color as well. And this applies even if we go on to do some further editing. So if I just deselect that fill layer by selecting another layer instead, and I even change tools, I can go back to that fill layer at any point, use my gradient tool again, and get access to my gradient editor. Okay, let me show you another slightly more complicated approach. So I'm going to right click and delete that fill layer. And instead I'm going to use a mask with a fill layer. But what do we base the mask off? Let's base it off channel information. So I'll open up the channels panel here, find background blue, which corresponds to our current background layer, right click the thumbnail and choose create mask layer. Okay, so now we need a fill to apply this mask to. Once again, let's go to Layer, New Fill Layer. Let's set the color to a blue. And then I'm going to click drag the mask that we've just created and offer it to the thumbnail of that fill layer. Okay, so that fill layer is now masked to that blue channel information. If I just hide the mask, you can see it's now affecting the entire document. Whereas now it's just masked to that blue channel information. So now we need to set a blend mode. Once again, let's try a blend mode like screen or maybe even add. Okay, and then let's experiment with the color values. So I'm going to go for a nice deep blue here. And additionally, I think I will need to experiment with the opacity to find a nice balance. But this is quite a complex but powerful approach of doing some color grading or color toning within your image. So let's just hide that fill layer and see the before and the after, where we're just toning the blue channel information. So there we go, just a couple of different approaches of how you might use the fill layer within Affinity Photo.